So, welcome to the podcast. Quite a familiar face at this point on the podcast. Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm very well. Yeah, I'm here in the bowels of the Piping Centre, the heart of the Grace Note Factory.
Indeed. The Grace Note Factory. I love that term. I know people have called it that. Yeah. So, how's things, man? How you keeping?
Good. Yeah, I had a good Christmas and New Year. I'm just kind of getting back on the horse practice-wise.
Aye.
I suppose it's that way where yeah, I don't know, like everybody else, you kind of put the pipes down over Christmas and New Year to concentrate on all the kind of truly important things in your life, and then you get to January and go, how do these things work again?
Yeah.
Um, but I've been kind of back on it for 2 weeks, and I'm feeling kind of better about what I'm doing now. I've got a lot of new pieces that I'm going to play this year competitively, so that's always a bit trepidatious, but I think it'll be good in the long run. Like even if it's not successful immediately, I think that'll do me good as a player to expand my horizons and what tunes I'm playing.
That's it. And why not, sir? If anything, well, you interrupted my own practice session before we hit record here. So it's good to get back into your hands again. Because as you say, after taking that period of time, to eat turkey and drink beer for like 2 weeks, it takes a wee bit of time to get back into it again. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a ramping up that happens, I think. And what I'd say to folk is that you've got to be patient with yourself, and you've got to have a plan. You can't come back to it and expect there have been changes when you haven't made changes. But alternatively, I've found a few times myself that things that maybe I'd been stressed about in my playing after a bit of a break, I can look on them really freshly. So I think it's making sure you don't take too long of a break. And I suppose that very neatly leads into why I'm here. I'm sure there will be big Rav Show viewers who are like, why is this guy back again? And maybe they're right. So the whole crack is, I'm in the Piping Centre for a reason. Okay, I've been in here filming stuff all day. It's the back of 2 just now, and I've been in here for hours. So what we're going to do is, we had this kind of thought, right? So I used to be a Rubenesque gentleman, right? And Ruben was a painter that painted big fat people. So, so apologies to anyone that found that offensive, but there you go. So in the last year, I decided to take control of my personal health, right? So I changed my diet, I started exercising, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
And one of our admin team, our marketing officer, Helen Urquhart, is a runner, a reader, all this sort of stuff, and does these challenges. And in December, I took on a thing called 30 for 30. So it was 30 minutes cardio every day for 30 days.
Wow. Right? Yeah.
And it was great. I learned a lot about, what I could endure, what I could produce, all that sort of stuff. It was great. But what we talked about, because we got into a conversation, Helen's done loads of this stuff. And I was like, well, what if we put together one for pipers? Now, the fact is that you might not feel like it all the time, but globally, things are moving on. Okay, we're coming back. The pipe band's going to be coming back. The solo piping's definitely coming back. You probably a lot of folk out there really want to get into it, but just haven't got a plan, haven't got the support. Then it's no fault of their own. There's no fault of the structures around them, but just things have become dormant. So, in an effort to rattle everyone's cage, we've come up with the February piping challenge. So,
I like the sound of this. So, what is it then, Dan? What's the details here?
Brass taxes. We created a hashtag, which I can't remember what it is now, but I'm sure you'll find out very soon.
Yep.
And the whole crack is 28 days in a row. Okay, we're inviting you to practice with us for 28 days in a row. Every day we'll have a selected subject. So it could be memorising tunes, hand changing, 2/4 march playing, tuning your pipes, steady blowing. We've really tried to create 28 days worth of stuff. Our junior championship is on the 19th of February.
Yeah, halfway through. Yeah.
Split in between here in Cowcaddens and our Otago Street campus. And the week leading up to that is all going to be stuff about preparation for competition. Just wee tweaks that you can make the week of, stuff like that. It's really just an effort to give you a reason and some support. So I guess the reason I'm on here isn't just to promote this, but also to ask of you, Rav, and of all the big Rav Show listeners to get involved. This is your opportunity to make yourself the piper you want to be. It's not going to happen overnight, but this is a start.
I'd love to. This sounds amazing. So, well, to me, I'm still kind of shaky. I'm kind of relatively a beginner. I still haven't hit that competition circle yet. Is this open from, beginner level all the way up to advanced, or?
Yeah, I think the idea was to say, like, here's a bunch of stuff that we kind of universally say. So, like, the very first thing we're doing, okay, so on the 1st of February, I'm going to be hosting a live stream where I'm going to do a full maintenance breakdown in a set of pipes. So I'm going to take a set of pipes from scratch to playable, live in front of your very eyes.
That'd be great. Yeah.
And the idea being that, I've been thinking about this quite a lot. I'm going to give you all the secrets, right? Nothing's off the table. Seeing these live streams, put it in the comments box, anything you want figured out, and I'll tell you how it works.
Brilliant.
And this is free. This is free. See, as long as you get Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, you can get this.
That's a big selling point,
nothing.
Yeah.
You're asking for nothing but your participation. And even if you skip a couple of days, doesn't matter. All we want you to do is to embrace it. That's the idea. And what I'm asking for as well is, when you see it, share it. Because you might see it in your timeline, but somebody else needs to see it. And I'd ask this of every piper, and like drummers as well, right? If you're involved at all, I would encourage folk to take an idea, take the idea of the togetherness of it. I think that one thing, Robert Matheson spoke about this last time, or like in his episode, about the community of pipers and drummers being so much more supportive now than it ever has been.
Absolutely.
And that's what we want to embrace.
No, I think this is a fantastic idea. Yeah, for sure. So, maybe a lot of people out there are kind of like me, and they've learnt or started to learn over lockdown throughout all of this. And I don't know, as myself as a beginner bagpiper, I've never had the opportunity to hang out with other pipers, to even play with them and ask questions. What happens if my bass drum's wobbling, or how do I fix certain things? So this could be something where I could kind of ask those questions firsthand then, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives you that real-time opportunity to do that, the way that we're hoping to do it, and there'll be, obviously, we'll take COVID into account for these things, but I'll be on one side of the camera and there'll be somebody else manning a laptop on the other side that can examine this stuff and kind of feed stuff through. That's the plan anyway. If not, it'll just be me and a laptop sort of awkwardly going back and forth, but that'll not matter. So yeah, I would encourage folk to give us the questions. I mean, these things can seem like a bit of a mystery, and I think, especially if you play in a pipe band, and having been the vast majority of my time piping, to say all of my time actively out in the world piping, I have been involved in pipe bands. Your pipe major doesn't have time at the 3 hours a week actual band practice that you have to tell you, look, this is the relationship between the chanter and the drones on a music theory level, and this is the technical understanding of what you are listening to, so that you can share that and communicate it. But what they can say to you is, you're playing that too fast, and hold that note longer. Headlines only. So what I'm offering, and it's not just me. I would say that we've got a smorgasbord of different tutors who are going to be adding their own stuff. So you won't just have to listen to me for a month ramble on. Although I will be rambling on quite a lot. But it'll be, we'll get stuff like Wilson Brown taking us through 2/4 marches.
Oh, right, great.
Hand changing with Stephen Blake. Willie McCallum taking you through the heavy movements, grips, tourlas, birls, all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
It's a real variety of player in there. And then hopefully, I guess what we try to say, the mission of the National Piping Centre is the same mission that the College of Piping had in 1946. It's to expand and increase the visibility of the Great Highland Bagpipe and its performers. So, like I was saying before, we ask nothing of you other than a minute and a half, 2 minutes maybe, every day to say, all right, that's what they're talking about. I'm going to have a think about that and apply it to your practice.
There you are. That's fantastic. So this is, again, completely all for free. So where can folks go to access this, Dan? Is it on the website or whereabouts?
So it'll be on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you search the National Piping Centre, you'll find us, I suppose.
I see.
And you'll see more and more stuff coming out about it. I think we will be having a more detailed breakdown, including like daily subjects on bagpipe.news, our news site.
Right, yes.
In the coming week. As we get closer to it, we'll be putting more and more stuff out about it. I'll probably be putting out lots of little sort of vignette things myself, through my own Peebricks for Everyone page, just to make sure The word is out there. And I guess the big word is objects in motion stay in motion. It's coming back, so you better be ready when it is.
There you go. Exactly. So you may as well kick the ball rolling now. Exactly. Yeah. So Dan, well, I think, well, first of all, thanks for this amazing idea. I think it's a cracking, idea to get people playing again, and that's exactly what we're focused on here too in the Rab Show. So, yeah, we'll definitely be getting involved, even if it was only me and not the rest of the Rab Show team. But we'll do what we can to get involved for sure. Yeah. So, well, it's funny that you mentioned Paperwork is for Everyone, because I have to say, first of all, congratulations on the publication of that book. Man, what an amazing title.
Oh, thanks very much.
How have you found the reaction to the book? I know the last time we were chatting to you is when you were getting ready to launch it, but now it's out there. What do you think the feedback's been so far?
I think it's been universally quite good. I mean, there was a point where some silly people said some silly things about something they didn't understand. And I was like, oh, well, that's just silliness, isn't it? But I mean, I've been really pleased that I get feedback pretty regularly from people who got the book, finished the book, and what I tend to hear is, this has been so digestible, it's so easy to read. There's even folk have claimed that it's funny in places. I did try to be funny, but I didn't try to be funny. I just put things in that I thought were funny. See if you ever write a book, Rab, the thing you'll notice is that it drives you mad. You know, like
how does it drive you mad?
Because it's being in an echo chamber sometimes, especially once you start editing it. So the thing that I've probably found the most kind of quick return sort of feedback on has been there's a bit in it where I'm talking about the early music, the generation of court music, and I put together a kind of monologue about the sort of the ideas behind court music. Somebody wealthy and powerful finds someone in their community that knows all the local songs, who happens to be a good singer, a good lute player or whatever, brings them in front of their guests, and that's how showbiz starts.
Yes.
But I go off on a bit of a wild tangent.
It's a bit hilarious, that part, if I'm honest. Yeah, it is quite funny.
The Ethel, the poorly named, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the whole thing was like, I would find that funny, and I thought, well, I mean, there's nothing in there that's harmful or rude or anything like that. No. So it's very likely somebody else will chuckle at it as well. Yeah, but exactly. I think that's how you retain stuff. So I had a really nice moment during Piping Live. Must have been like the Thursday. I stepped outside for a breath of fresh air. I mean, during Piping Live, of course, staff, we're running about all over the place. We had no volunteers, or we had only about 3 or 4 volunteers this year. And, it was a great week, but it was a working week. Yeah. So I stepped outside to grab a breath of fresh air, and I saw a bunch of teenagers reading my book. And I recognised a few of them for the youth band and stuff like that. I kind of knew who they were. Yeah. But what I noticed is that it was Thursday and they were all about halfway through it. And I thought,
it didn't take them long. There you go.
It's about 205 pages, and it's really big. It's not a great big tome. And that's not to take away from the books about Peabrick that are great big tomes. Goodness knows I've got all of them. So I've read through a lot of them, and I think the thing for me was I wanted to write something that was for pipers on the street, not an academic thing. Yes. And again, I don't mean to take away from academic writings, that my book wouldn't be here without those. Yes. But at the same time, you go, if you say to somebody, here, I've got you Dr. William Donaldson's Highland Pipe and Scotch Society 1750 to 1950 for your birthday, and they say, oh, that's great, my chair's been wobbling, so I'll just fire it under here.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas, with Peabrick is for Everyone, you can, I say it in the epilogue of the book, give it to your friends. I guess the big thing is the mission is the mission. You're trying to get as many people, not even into playing it, but into appreciating and going, I understand a bit of how that works now. It doesn't seem like something that isn't for me, And I always thought it was something that wasn't for me. It wasn't for me, It was I wasn't of the echelon,
Yes.
And then you go, at a certain point, you go, well, I had to get into it. Goodness knows, growing up, my tutors tried to get me into it, but I was obsessed with pipe bands. And by the time that I kind of came out of that fog, I was like, oh, I better do something else now.
See, Dan, and you do mention that at the start of your book about being involved in the band scene, and that Pembroke is seen as this like really upper class part of piping, and it's not for us commoners down here in the band scene. But
do you know,
that's absolutely not the case. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not. And it's never really has been the case. But you've got to remember that, see, in the mid to late 20th century, we had one of the great piping minds of all time, right? Unarguably, was Sheamus McKinnon. And we often joke about Sheamus McKinnon's ghost here in the piping centre. Every time a picture falls off the wall or a door slams, you're like, I'll be Sheamus. But he was not just a great player, he was a great thinker. He was a professor of natural philosophy at Glasgow University. Wow. He was kept out of war service because he was deemed like, essential personnel for education.
I see.
And by his writings in the Piping Times, what's I feel personally a little sad about Sheamus's legacy is he left behind lots of research and great editorials, but he also liked getting the boot into people. So famously, Gordon Duncan. If this is the way piping's going, I'm going to take up the fiddle. It's funny, it's a witty line, it's good, but did I actually do piping any good? For all that Sheamus did piping, well, I mean, we'll never finish thanking Sheamus McNeil and Tommy Pearson for what they've done for piping. But at the same time, you go like, oh, could you not have just been a bit nicer in general? And I'm sure in person, he was fine. But a lot of the things he said was stuff like, real pipers don't play in pipe bands. How harsh a statement is that? And look, everybody out there, you know what pipers are like. Oh, hey, got a negative thing to tell you. It's negative, so it must be the truth.
Must be true. Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't work like that. But I grew up in the 90s, where there was a massive pipe band boom, and pipe bands, you're really seeing like the dominance of the overseas bands. Yes. Like when I was a wee boy, like being dragged around pipe band contests with my father. I say dragged, I was probably dragging him at a certain point. But I used to carry his pipe case about. So he'd be tuning up the band, and I'd be carrying the case with all the spare bits and pieces in it. And I remember seeing like Vicky Police win the Worlds in '98 and playing off with Waltzing Matilda through the ranks of the shots.
I remember that too. Yeah, man, what a moment!
And not really getting it at the time, but I know it was a bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing to do, right? By the way, you'd never get that now. It's the world's too small a place. Everything's pals to everybody else. You never get that. However, but wee things like that stick in my head, and I always felt kind of part of that fraternity. And when it came to Pembroke, the guys that tried to teach me Pembroke, God bless them, they were right. But me, because of the way that you work within a pipe band, there are no ambiguities in pipe bands. And if you're sitting there going, right, just watch somebody's foot, see on that break, go when my foot hits the ground, you're already onto a loser. Richard Parks doesn't do that.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Alan Tully doesn't do that. They know exactly when they're hitting that beat, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And like, you go into Pembroke and they're like, how long's a ball of string? How long are you going to hold that note for?
Just stretch it and
you've got to know what that thing is. But I would say this, it made me a far better musician. I've got a degree in music, and I say now, 10 years later, I'm 10 times the player I was a decade ago. And I'd put it down to, in Pembroke, you learn more stability in your instrument. You learn more about yourself as an instrumentalist. You get to learn a great deal about structures of music as well. It might not feel like that, but you do. And even just an inherent groove. Now, as a drummer, Rav, you'll know what I mean by groove.
Oh, yeah. You find that pocket, don't you? Yeah, that's it.
But how many pipers do you know that play in squares all the time? Good pipers even, but it's all dink, 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 dink. When you play Pembroke, it's not always that even. Some phrases have 6 pulses, some phrases have 3. Some phrases have 5, and like they've all got to tie together inside of an inherent groove. And I find all that stuff, as a big music nerd, interesting. And maybe it's not for everybody, but what I wanted to do with that book was say, look, at least if you can get your way from the start to the end of this, you can see why things are the way they are.
Yes.
And hopefully that makes listening to music palatable.
It does, 100%. And do you know, Dan, what I was doing, I reread your book again over the Christmas period when I was off. And, I actually went back and watched old videos of Glenfiddich and stuff. And you have various different reference points throughout the book as well. And I just went mad in researching them. It seemed to be, your book kind of kicked me off down a path And I was like,
Okay.
all right, I want to hear this tune and how it's actually, phrased and expressed and stuff. And look at all the stuff that you mentioned in the book. So thank you. It's your fault that I'm now kind of partially obsessed with Peabrooks.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, one thing I find as an educator now as well is that, like, once I've got a student to a point where they can play their first March of Spain reel, right? So, like, Willie Gray's Farewell to the Glasgow Police, Captain Colin Campbell, and Colonel MacLeod, something like that. That sort of level of tune. And it's all right. You can go, you can play it on the pipes and you can get through it. And if you're working with me, I'll make sure you get your pipes work, even if it's via Zoom, which is a bit like the Crystal Maze. Mind whenever there'd be folk outside kind of shouting into the room. It's like that a lot. But basically, I'll get to a point where I go, right, you can play a March of Spain reel. You get the idea of our 3 big idioms in light music. And then I'll introduce the ground of a Peabrook. Some pupils I tell you learn the ground of a Peabrook. Some pupils I don't. I just say it's a slow way. And there are great tunes out there for that, when you can kind of hoodwink folk into it. But what I found as a student was, because I came from a piping family and I had a really good musical vocabulary earlier on, because I spent all my time listening to pipers, I think that sometimes my tutors expected me to be a little bit further on than I actually was, because a lot of it was monkey see, monkey do. I was dead good at copying. Like, I played just like my father till I was about 15, which is no mean feat, right? Especially not in these younger days. But it's that way where I was like, I just copied that because I heard it all the time. And then I got, my tutors changed and I got more refined, and like I had guys like Jim Semple, who's a really well-known pipe band judge, but played in the Glasgow Police, played in the Strathclyde Police Band under Ian McClellan, and it was Jimmy that taught me how to like hit it and quit it, how to get in and out, how to hit the brakes, how to meet the 5 things you have to meet to win majors, all that sort of stuff.
There you go.
And like all those sort of things were really, really important. But now I think as an educator, right, those are important and they're simple. So therefore, I should be able to slide Peabrook into this because it's all piping, rather than this is light music, that's Peabrook, and there's a big gap between them. There really shouldn't be. And see the best players. I've been so privileged, by the way. I can't thank, Roddy McLeod, Alberto Laidlaw, the guys that hired me to work here enough. I met my wife here. Like my best friends work here, and I get to hang around with like childhood heroes. When Roddy was here, asking like Roddy and Willie questions, or hearing the two of them blethering about their days of piping, you absorb a lot of stuff.
I'm sure, oh gosh, I can't even imagine just how interesting that would be.
But they talk about piping. They don't talk about light music and pipe bands and Peabrook over here. They talk about piping as one thing.
The whole thing, the whole umbrella term, really, instead of its own little separate boxes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, so Dan, I have to say, for anyone listening right now who hasn't got a copy of your book, you should really go and get it because it's absolutely fantastic. So thank you. And
sorry, good point. I recorded the audiobook over Christmas and New Year.
That was what I was going to get to. Have you finished it? I know you're working on it.
I've finished reading all the words out, and tell you this: see if audiobooks had been around about 120 years ago, War and Peace would be about 150 pages, because having to listen to yourself back is torturous.
Oh,
however, but the audiobook is the audiobook's slightly shorter than the paper book because I've not been able to add as much in terms of the footnotes and things like that because it just doesn't flow well. But all the core information's there. Every chapter is bookended with excerpts of Peabrook as well.
It is,
of me playing it. So whether you like that or not, it's me playing it.
With actual recordings?
Just wee snippets, bumpers to get you from one to the other.
Hey.
And I think the idea is, there's a friend of mine who is a professor. He works for the Royal National Institute for the Blind and basically masters audiobooks all day, every day. So he's slightly bonkers. However, he agreed to kind of double check it over for me and stuff. So he's going through that process now.
Right.
I'll be, hopefully in early February, I'll actually be putting it out there, and that'll be available. Well, it'll definitely be available on dnpiping.com. That's where you get all this stuff.
Yeah.
But hopefully on like iTunes and all that kind of carry on as well.
Fantastic. I know I've already read the book twice now, but I'm definitely going to get the audiobook as well. So that's fantastic. So I have to ask you then the obligatory question, possibly everyone's going to be wanting to know, is will there be any more follow-ups now, Dan, to this?
Yeah, in mind, I'm going to do pipe bands for everyone.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So the thing about it is, these are for everyone books have to float around a central idea. So in P book is for everyone, it was that was the thing. You're making it universal.
Yes.
In pipe bands are for everyone, I feel very much more like I've got my feet on solid ground with pipe bands, and the sort of there has to be a narrative. But the question that I'm asking and I'm trying to answer, or will be trying to answer, is why do we do things the way we do them?
Ooh, that could be tough in some instances. Exactly. Why do we stand in a circle? Why do we? Yeah, that's going to be a lot of questions there. Yeah.
Well, I've never met a piper or drummer who I've stood and had a pint with in the beer tent that hasn't said to me, "We should be doing this." I don't understand why we do it. Oh, these old men keep telling us we do it this way because that's the way they did it. It's not exactly the way they did it. You know,
No,
we don't realise that music's an oil tanker. It's not a speedboat. You can't turn an oil tanker on a dime. It arcs round to a different direction. And things like, there's stuff that I'm really interested in, like the piping scene of Toronto from 1960 to 1987. Right? I think that's going to be a really interesting thing because you get like Mike Gray, well, Bill Livingston's probably the spearhead there. But if you read Bill's book, he talks about a kind of pyramid of guys. He was probably the poster boy. But I don't you guys like Ed Nye in there. There's a band, is it the Glengarry Highlanders? There was a recording went up last year on YouTube, right? And it's like Paul McClellan, Ed Nye, and a bunch of like Canadian players. But it's like a recording of their medley. And I'm telling you right now, that medley would be space age today. If you played that grade one today, folk would be like, it's amazing. I can't believe it. That. I'm not talking about the tone of the playing. I'm talking about the music.
The actual content of it, Dan. Yeah.
Okay, you could maybe say, well, it could be delivered better. I'm sure those men would say, fair enough, it was 30 odd years ago, so I. But at the same time, but you say to yourself, well, these things are going on. And to this day, that sort of Ontario out to the provinces of Canada, there's a lot of, there's been a tradition of acceptance of experimentation.
Yes.
Now, you've got to also ask the question of, well, why doesn't that happen over here in Scotland? Well, let's say in the UK and the Republic of Ireland, why doesn't that happen here? The nicest way of putting it, the bands are all dead good. Of your top 10 bands on the planet, how many of them are based between Glasgow and Dublin? Like between, if you think of that geographical arc,
that's true.
It's gonna be so. There's probably a tradition of not taking risks there. But that's things. Okay, I've maybe answered a bit of that question, but let's be honest, a pretty thin answer I've just given. I'd like to know more.
There's going to be a lot more to that. I'm definitely sure, and not only just in Canada, but also around the globe. Dan,
that's just
exactly. Yeah, your Australian, New Zealand scene, South Africa, United States is a huge thing in itself. So yeah, I dare say this is going to be quite a big book. There's a lot to delve into here.
I think what I'm going to try to do is. So my methodology, last time I had lots of academic research to go into, but pipe bands, for whatever reason, God bless them, but nobody seems that interested in academically researching the history of pipe bands.
That's true.
And it's not really a history of pipe bands. The things that I've set out for myself to say, these are the things that must be here. Thing one, why do we do the things we're doing? Okay, well, it's trickle down. So whatever happens in grade 1 will happen in grade 3 5 years later.
Yes.
So, or even just the tunes will migrate within a season, that sort of stuff. And that's natural, that's good. So you've got to say, well, the history of the development of the pipe band has to be centered around grade 1 bands. Now, I said that to my father, right, who's a man, 65-year-old, been playing in pipe bands since he was 7, the second generation of Nevanses to play. And he was like, no, you're absolutely wrong. And I was like, what do you mean I'm wrong? He goes, pipe bands are community-based musical ensembles. They only became athletic when Richard Parks became pipe major of FM. And I went, no, hang on a minute.
Wow.
And I thought that was a really interesting statement.
Yeah.
And as a massive FM fan growing up, like I was like, I could, if he'd said that to me 15 years ago, I would have went, you're right. But I bet if you asked Richard, he would go, well, actually, I was really influenced by, and suddenly
100%.
Chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
So you kind of find that, and you go back to like, right, at what point did it become athletic, right, to borrow a phrase, right?
Yes. Yes.
And you say, well, it has to be sometime after World War II. And there's all these things that start to feed in, and I can kind of see the octopus of this information. But I think that the trick is going to be forming it into a narrative and try to keep it short. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the oldest piper that I can think of, who's Bob McPhee, who taught me when I was a wee boy. Bob's 95, and Bob was taught by Peter McLeod Sr. in Glasgow in the 20s, or in the 30s. The 1930s, I should say, because we're already in 2020. But he played in pipe bands in Glasgow in that era.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody else. And by the way, if you're listening to this, if you're 105 and you played in pipe bands anywhere,
get in touch.
Drop me a line. I'd love to speak to you about it.
Yeah.
And but it's Bob played in the Glasgow Shepherds, which is Archie McFederin's band. That's just some old dead guy to most listeners, right? But Archie McFederin taught a lot of great players. Donald McPherson played in that band.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And what Bob said to me is there were another couple of boys that died in World War II that were better players than Donald McPherson was.
Oh, wow.
And you're like, that's a big claim, right? But
Certainly.
I was like, I'm intrigued here because that's the stuff gone. When's that going to... Now, I don't know how to incorporate that in a book, but it's nice to know.
Definitely good to capture down for sure. Yeah. So I obviously I'm not putting you under any pressure and asking for release dates and stuff, but definitely keep us keep us informed and stuff. Let us know how progress is going. And if there is anything ourselves and Rab Show can do to help, man, just let us know.
That'd be great. I think what I'm going to do is I've got a few sort of musical projects I'm going to do in the meantime through Keybrick is for Everyone. A few years ago for Piping Today, when Piping Today was going, I did a series called the Modern Keybrick Project, where I took tunes that were from the late 20th century and interviewed the composers, learned them, interviewed the composers, and kind of got a lesson from the composer on how the tune was played. So I'm going to kind of return to some of that, but what I'm going to do is look at orchestrating these tunes for groups of pipers, for musical ensembles, and try to produce something. I'm going to start it all off with a composition of my own. So basically, I'm just trying to keep something going through all that, but I'll probably be producing little bits of kind of research notes and stuff like that as I go. I'll probably I will do this through the Keybrick is for Everyone Facebook page, kind of until further notice. I just want to take this moment to say thank you to everyone that supported it. To be honest, I wrote it as a way of keeping myself sane, not just through the pandemic, but just keeping myself sane in general.
Yeah.
And I felt that there was a need, but I was growing up a little fat specky kid. You just assume that nobody's interested in what you've got to say. And I've sold a few hundred of these books now, and I hope that keeps going. But the point is that it's getting out there. I'm getting nice feedback, and I couldn't be happier with just the space this book is finding in the zeitgeist. So thank you very much to everyone.
It absolutely is fantastic, and we can't recommend it enough. It is a worthy Rab Show Award nominee for sure. I'm dare to say, I could probably continue to be on people's bookshelves for a long time to come. So I would encourage folks to go out and pick up a copy. So Dan, before I let you go, man, I just wanted to reconfirm that information about what we had you on the show for originally. I know we got down a road there, but talking about this practicing initiative then from the National Piping Centre.
It's going to be the February Piping Challenge. I believe the hashtag is going to be #February Piping Challenge, and that'll be on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Like I was saying, it's going to be 28 days long. You're going to get some information every day, a video, a picture, advice basically every day from our world-class teaching team here at the National Piping Centre for absolutely diddly squat, not a cent, okay? As long as you've got access to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, this information is there for you. We'll be doing weekly live streams, okay, and that'll be, I don't know, our tech wizards will find some way of doing this on multiple platforms. But during these live streams, there'll be specific things that we'll be doing, but you'll have an opportunity to ask questions, and I will tell you any piping secret that I have access to, anything.
There you go.
At the end of it, if you out there in the internets have been keeping up and have been sending us your own practice videos, your own responses to our hashtag, we're going to pick 5 people to get goodie bags from the National Piping Centre. It's stuff we've talked about all the way through. So, look, you're going to get a hat. You're probably going to get a beer towel. You're probably going to get a bunch of other stuff as well. The winner, the person that we feel has supported the most, benefited the most, all that sort of stuff, is going to get a special prize as well. So they'll get a goodie bag and some more to it. So yeah, follow the hashtag, put your own stuff up for the hashtag, share it as well. Make sure that you're sending it around. Remember, these things are all based on algorithms, right? Some sort of evil marketing black magic. If you see it, share it. And in that way, it's not just about helping yourselves, but helping every other piper you know.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think it's a fantastic idea, Dan. And thank you so much, first of all. And yeah, I can't wait to get involved with this. Indeed.
Pleasure. Thanks again for having me on.
Not at all, Dan. And hopefully we'll get you back on another show to talk about that upcoming book, mate. Yeah. Take care. All the best.